So we have exposed and revealed, chaos and conflict. Interesting. Trust your path. If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? We have the octopus. This is water energy. And we have Taurus, cultivate. Okay. Okay, I'm going to... Yeah, it's really pretty obvious from looking at this that you have the gift of clairvoyance. So we can kind of get into that, but it is just so clear that that's what's going on here. And then there's a little more. There's a little more than being clairvoyant. So basically, clairvoyance is the gift of receiving messages through images or through scenes in your mind. So you have really clear sight, and it's actually a mental image or picture. So you may have noticed like getting kind of having the idea of how things are, what the truth of a situation is, or how a situation is going to play out. And you might find that you actually see that in your mind. You see things playing out the way that you are like you're getting an image of how it's going to play out. I think what's more than just the clairvoyance for you is actually that you also have the gift of discernment. So this is actually the gift of being able to kind of know what the truth is of any situation. And I think that these two gifts might work together for you. So it might be that you discover what the truth of a situation is through clairvoyant messages. But this is really like where this comes into play a lot is you can really tell when somebody is telling the truth or if they're lying. And I think that can be a little bit frustrating for you and for those around you at times, because it's like it's really difficult for you to let it go if you know that somebody isn't being honest with you. Beyond that gift of discernment, I'm also picking up on the gift of prophecy. So let's kind of it's all coming in so fast, so I'm going to try to keep this in a form where you can understand. But I feel like your spiritual gifts, that really your psychic ability is playing into a lot of the spiritual gifts that you have, and that there's a lot here, and they all kind of work together. So we have that clairvoyance as a really strong psychic ability that you have, and then you have these spiritual giftings. So you have discernment and you have prophecy, and I feel like this all works together to kind of give you an idea of how situations are going to play out. You can tell what the truth is. You can tell when someone's not being honest. And we have this chaos and conflict card here. So I think what the situation for you might be is that, for one thing, the truth is very important to you. Knowing the truth of any situation and getting the answers is very important to you. I think you're a very intellectual person. We have this octopus energy here. We'll get to that, but you're very intellectual and you're always thinking. Your mind is always going. So I think that like having the facts and the figures, which often translates into having the truth, knowing what's going on, I think that's something that's very, very important for you. And it's like it's a non-negotiable. I think sometimes this can cause some conflict. It can cause a little bit of upset around your relationships. So it might just be something that some people in your life don't appreciate all the time. Like, they may love that you're intellectual, but they kind of hate that you'll call them out, that you're gonna just like straight up to their face say, I don't believe you, you're lying, you're not telling the truth, and I know it. And you might not know how you know, but I think the reason that you do know is because you have these gifts of discernment, of prophecy, and beyond that, you have a clairvoyant ability. So you're actually able to see what the truth of the situation is. And I think putting all this together for you might be a little bit difficult at times. You might not realize kind of what's taking place in your head, but you just know. You just know. You know what the truth is. This can be frustrating to people who don't like to be truthful or don't like to confront their true selves or their honest selves. That can be a little frustrating because I feel like you don't hesitate to call people out. I think that also with this card being a number 33, you might feel particularly connected to your spirit guides, or your spirit guides might be trying really hard to connect with you if that's not a connection that you've made. So this can just be a sign, because the number 33 is all about ascended masters and kind of like messages and guidance from the spirit realm. So there's definitely a message coming through, that messages are trying to get through to you. So for some of you, that might be that messages are not successfully getting through to you and you need to tune in a little bit more. And for others, that can be that you're getting messages all the time and you are receiving and responding to those messages. But this is just kind of a bit of a reminder to those of you that might need to tune in a little bit more. I think most of all that your gift of discernment is helped and aided by your spirit guides. I think that some of why you're not exactly sure how you know what the truth is because you're getting information from your spirit guides. You are extremely connected to your guides. So we can jump over to this octopus now, because we were talking about this brain-centered energy, and that is, that's all you. Like, there's a lot of mental energy going on here. I do think that with this information that you're given, that you can often feel like you might be prying into other people's business, into other people's private lives, because you can see how situations are going to play out. You might have information, you might have guidance, there might be some things that you want to bring to people's attention sometimes, but because you're not sure how or why you have this information, or how or why you feel the way that you do, you might hesitate to share information with people about how situations are going to play out, or about how you see the truth of the situation, and they might not see really what's going on. So I do think it can cause even more, like we're going back to this chaos and conflict card, it can cause a lot of conflict inside of you because you have information and you're not sure whether or not you want to share it. So definitely interesting energy here for you. I think there's a lot going on here, a lot focused around the eyes and the brain. So it's almost like all of this energy that I feel like it's focused around the eyes, almost like there's a screen that plays behind your eyes. So on the outside of your eyes, you have just the screen of life. You have the 3D world, what you are able to visualize in your life outside of your eyes. And then behind your eyes, you have a whole separate screen. You have a screen where you're seeing the truth of situations. You're maybe even seeing the future of situations at times. And I think it can be a little bit difficult for you to figure out how to kind of make sense of all of that, and what part of that you should share and what part of it you should keep to yourself. So with this, I do have to tell you that I think that another gift that you have here is the gift of visualization, which could maybe even make your gift of prophecy and your clairvoyant gift a little bit more confusing, because I think that you are highly gifted when it comes to visualizing, so much so that you might not be sure what's just your own imagination, your own visuals in your imagination, and what's actually like a message where you're kind of like seeing what is going to happen. But the reason that I bring this up is because you have this octopus energy here. The octopus always takes me back to the number 8. The number 8 always takes me back to manifestation, and I think about masterful manifesting when I think about the number 8. I think about infinite possibilities and infinite energy going into creating. So I would say that what I think is going on here is you are just so gifted in this in the brain area. Like there's something with your head that it's just, that's where your gifting really lies. So this comes into all sorts of visuals with your clear sight, and then also visualization when it comes to manifestation is key for you. So different people have different strengths when it comes to manifesting and how they bring manifestations into the 3D. For you, that is through visualizing. So that's through visualizing the outcome the way that you want it to be, because it really comes naturally to you to visualize. So this is something to keep in mind. This is your number one way to manifest, is seeing outcomes the way you want them. On the flip side of that, and maybe a little bit of a warning, is because you are so gifted at visualizing, seeing situations in a way that you didn't want them to go could be very detrimental to you. And that might be just a little bit of a note for you to make, because if you are someone who sits around and plays out scenes in your head of things you do not want to happen, I would advise that you stop doing that, because I think you have a real gifting when it comes to this. So when you catch yourself playing out a scene that you do not like, you wouldn't want for that scene to actually play out in your real life, just stop yourself. Don't be hard on yourself, because we all do it. Just kind of slow the car down and put it in reverse real gradually, and just switch that visual. Switch it so that the situation is playing out in a more beneficial way for you, because I do think that's your sweet spot when it comes to manifesting. Visualization is everything, and I think you can really project things so quickly through your visualization that you might not even realize that you created it, because it happens so fast. There's no way you'd even put the pieces together to know, like, hey, I just visualized that and that's why it's happening. You just kind of think you knew that it was going to happen. And as I'm explaining this to you, I'm like, dang, I feel kind of bad. I can see that this is confusing for you, because it's like you do receive clairvoyant messages, so you have a hard time distinguishing whether or not this is a thought that you had and a picture, a scene, like a movie that you played out in your mind, or if this is a clairvoyant message. So this really just comes down to harnessing that mental energy and being able to straighten it out. You might notice that you kind of feel the images differently, if that makes any sense. Like maybe they're coming from slightly different places of your brain or something, and that can help you distinguish. As I'm saying that, I'm realizing the way you are going to distinguish this is not because they're coming from different places of your brain, it's because your clairvoyant messages do not come from your brain at all. They actually, they're coming from a more intuitive place. They play on that screen though. They play on the same screen as you visualize on. And like, if this isn't making any sense to you, then this isn't your pile, because I feel like for somebody who is experiencing this confusion, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because like, if you're visualizing, you're seeing it in your mind somewhere, you're seeing it in your mind's eye, and when you receive your clairvoyant messages, you're seeing those in your mind's eye as well. But the difference between the two is how they come into your brain. Your images that you are trying to visualize actually come from your brain. They're produced by your imagination, and your clairvoyant messages are coming from an intuitive place, but they're playing out on the same screen. So I hope that's a little bit of help to distinguish where those messages are coming from. You have this Trust Your Path card here, and really, everything we've been talking about, I do think requires a lot of trust. You're going to have to trust that the messages that you're receiving are the truth. I think you already do. I think when it comes to sharing those messages, it can get a little bit more tricky, but you know, because you can feel in your essence what is true and what will take place, what will play out. You already know this, but learning how to trust it fully can be a little bit of a challenge for you. And I think that because we were talking about you being so connected to your guides, I think this is really when you need to kind of trust your guides and trust your feelings about things. Trust that you are being guided in the right direction. Like we were talking about with this number 33 here, you're very connected to your guides, and they are very invested in getting messages through to you. So yeah, I think it's really, like, you need to trust this a little bit more. I can sense maybe a little bit of hesitation, especially when it comes to things that involve other people, where you might feel like you are kind of calling somebody out or you are prying into their life. I think you're going to bless a lot of people with the knowledge that you have, though, so it's important that you trust it enough that you can share it. We have this Taurus energy here, and yeah, I mean, the Taurus actually rules the neck and the voice. So I think that's exactly what we were just talking about. Trusting things enough that you're able to share them. So yeah, that it's a challenge that you have, whether you should speak up or not. And this is kind of saying, yeah, you should speak up more. You should share this stuff, share the visions that you have, share the truth of the matter when you know what it is. Go ahead and feel more comfortable to share that, to put that out there. Taurus also talks about, like with this cultivate energy, it talks about kind of like growing roots, digging in somewhere. So I think this might be a skill that you really want to kind of ground yourself in. Like maybe have a little bit more acceptance and kind of plant yourself there. Like commit to it, I think is the message here. Okay, let's look at your tarot cards. With the tarot cards, we're going to look at how your gifts and abilities are a blessing, and that can be to you or others, how they are challenging, which we have touched on a little bit, and then how you can develop these gifts even more if you choose to. So let's look at how this is a blessing first. So we have number 10, the wheel. Okay. I think what this is really saying with the wheel, it's always about kind of matters out of your hands. It's about things happening without you having to do anything. And I think that what this is really saying is you have been blessed with it. The gift itself is the blessing, and the fact that you didn't have to really do anything to get this gift, to acquire this gift. Now, that's not to say that you won't have to work to develop this gift further. We're going to look into how you can do that, but it's really like just pointing out to you, this was naturally given to you. You're naturally gifted in this area. And that spirit helps you. Spirit wants to help you. Spirit wants to connect with you. The fact that this card is laying right on top of the 33, where we were talking about spirit being connected to you, it's just confirmation of that. You don't have to try that hard. You're naturally gifted here. The wheel's going to turn. Fate's going to kind of take this into its own hands, and you don't have to worry about it that much. So the gift itself is the blessing. Okay. And let's look at how this may be challenging for you. So we have the 5 of inspiration. Okay, that's 5 of wands energy. I think that this goes back to what we were talking about before. I think that you being able to see the truth of situations, and like I was saying before, sometimes call people on their shit. Like, I think sometimes it comes down to calling people on their shit. And I think that that can cause a lot of it's kind of going back to this chaos and conflict. It can cause a lot of conflict. The 5 of Wands is about conflict. It's about disagreements. It's about tension. And I think that this tension is not just tension that's outside of you, around the people, tension with the people around you. I think this is also tension inside of yourself around this topic, because there can be a little bit of hesitation or just an uncomfortable feeling when it comes to having this information and not knowing whether or not you trust it enough to share it. So yeah, I think this is just speaking to the challenge that kind of happens inside of you and also outside of you. That's kind of a big part of your reading, the chaos and conflict. It's right there front and center. This does cause it does cause some conflict around you sometimes. I think it's important to push through it. I know that can be like a little bit discouraging, but the truth is that the truth can hurt sometimes. And I think you're just so full of truth that some people aren't going to like it. I think that the people who you really want to be around are people who are interested in the truth themselves. They're interested in being truthful and being authentic. They're not people who you'd have to call out. So if that means you have to switch up your circle a little bit, then that might be just what you need to do. But because, I mean, come on, you don't really want to be around people who are more interested in lying than telling the truth. And I just think that's an energy you can't really stand anyway. So probably one that you would gravitate away from naturally. Okay, let's look at how you can develop this gift even more. We have the Page of Materials in reverse. So this is Page of Pentacles energy, Earth energy, and it did show up in reverse. So I think what's happening here is really we're going back to this Taurus energy, and even the energy I was picking up on before I even realized that Taurus is about the voice, and that you do have a little bit of hesitation when it comes to sharing this. So the Page of Materials showing up in reverse really lets me know that this is something that you try to keep private. This is something that, you know, bringing this out into the physical 3D world and making it a real thing is something that's a little bit challenging for you, and you struggle with it. So you want to keep this to yourself, but the way for you to develop this skill and to really nourish it is to bring it out into the world. It's to share your gifts with the world, and to trust it, and to not be afraid to speak up like we were talking about. What's really interesting about your gift is it feels like you are so naturally gifted at this, because none of your advice here had anything to do with you practicing. Now, I think this is something that you'll practice, because we practice at anything that we are doing for the first time, or we're doing it in a new way for the first time. We're going to practice at it. But I think that this really just touches on how naturally gifted you are when it comes to this clairvoyant gift that you've been given, and this gift of discernment and prophecy and visualization and communication with your guides. These things come so naturally to you that what your guides are telling you is to share it. Not to practice and develop and hide in a closet until it's perfectly ready to present to the world. They're saying share it, which really makes me think you must be ready in some way. There must be a level of readiness. You had the wheel come out, which we were talking about is just about being given the gift. You were just freely given the gift, and it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot that you need to do to develop it besides use it. Because when we use a muscle, the muscle grows. So really, I think that's what it is for you. I think you probably already know about all of this. You just might be in a place where you've been wanting to keep it to yourself, and you really need to share it to grow it. So if that's something you're interested in doing, if you're interested in developing this, then the best way is to let people know. Let people know what you think, and if you sense that a situation is off and that some truth needs to come out, let the truth come out, and just give this as a gift to the world. I think it's a gift that's been given to you, and it was a gift meant to be shared. So I think that's all I have for you, Group 2. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for letting me read your cards. This was a beautiful reading. If you did resonate with this reading, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and consider subscribing if you feel like it. I would love to have you here, and I'll see you in your next reading.